From from the Monster Mile of Dover to the lovely Charlotte Motor Speedway. Welcome to ANZCAR e-performance streaming for tonight's Cup race. I'm Carl Withy, and joining me tonight in the commentary booth, as is now becoming a common thing, we have James Foster.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the mile-and-a-half racetracks that a lot of the drivers have been craving, as we've been doing a lot of the slower racetracks in recent weeks, so a lot of the drivers are going to be enjoying tonight's race.
Yes, from Bristol to Dover and now back to a nice fast mile-and-a-half track. Charlotte's going to be a bit of a different monster tonight.
Yeah, I can run through the championship positions if you like, Carl. So at the moment we've still got Josh Michelmore for Mitch Motorsports in front of his teammate Jason Martin. He leads the championship on 288 points, so he's 6 points clear of Jason Martin. Then you have the first of the Illusion Motorsport cars, Scurlock on 264 points. Then you have Danny G, Edward Foster, Dave Douglas, Mirko Dautanac, Stephen Williams, Clute and Riley Curtis.
Yes, it's starting to shape up here, and we have got a few regulars missing tonight from the field. A little bit of a smaller group, but most importantly, people like Jason Martin, Matt Danson, and a lot of the championship contenders are here tonight as usual, and sort of not missing a beat so far this season. There are a few of the sort of mainstayers as well at the moment who are here, and obviously everybody's going to be trying to get sort of in that sort of lead pack tonight, trying not to be too far and too caught up in the middle battles.
Yeah, that's exactly right. To stay out of trouble and build a good lead early if they've got the pace to do that. Like, so far in the practice times, it looks as if Blokes Advice Racing have got their act together. So you've got Dave Douglas and Riley Curtis right up in the top three, and Edward Foster a little bit further back. But I think they're a little bit more optimistic about these mile-and-a-half tracks. They seem to be more competitive. It's just a matter of how the usual suspects begin to feature, such as Danson and Martin.
Yes, Blokes Advice do seem a little bit more confident on these tracks. They have desperately struggled on those shorter tracks this season by all accounts, but even so, that they've still managed to sort of keep themselves in play. You've got people like Edward Foster and Dave Douglas in 5th and 6th place in the championship, for example, and they're still almost right up the top. We have got, of course, the Mitch Motorsport team, which is, we're fearing, would be a sort of super team this season, and they are pretty much coming to bear with all three of their cars in the top 4 positions of the championship.
Yeah, we're yet to see the championship leader, Josh Michelmore, other than his win in Daytona. He's been consistent and been getting the results, but he hasn't really shown that sort of dominant performance that we've seen from the likes of Danson and Martin and Braden Bullis, who's a notable absentee tonight. So it'd be good to see if he can actually start to stamp some authority on this championship as we start qualifying.
Yeah, so we're just currently with Dave Douglas with our first run. But notably, you do say Jason Martin there with his dominance, but he hasn't had a win this season, at, as of yet in the Cup, of course. And that's very strange for Jason Martin. It's not odd. It's not like him to not have those wins. We're so used to seeing him up front and being that car to beat, basically, and he's not been there right up front, but he's been super consistent this season, and he looks to have really gotten out of the habit of, well, sort of broken the curse almost of those pit stops. He's been having a lot better runs into the pit lane, making a few less mistakes, and it's really helping him through his championship.
Yeah, I mean, he only lost by a hair's breadth at Martinsville, but he's been in the fight every single time. He's always been competitive and always been going for the win. So it's only a matter of time, I believe. But yeah, it's he'll be keeping an eye on Josh, and it will probably be starting to frustrate him that he doesn't have that lead yet. As so far in qualifying, we do have Edward Foster with the fastest time of a 29.721, followed by his teammate Dave Douglas, who's now actually just pipped him with a 29.4. followed by Chris Burnell, and the times keep on tumbling on the second run. So now the order's consistently changing, but so far, as predicted, we have the Blokes Advice racing cars all in the top 4.
Yes, and Riley Curtis there just getting a really good first run actually. He's just going around for his second run at the moment, um, and it looks like he is aborting that one. Um, Actually, I think that was his second run where he got the time. Sorry, but yeah, Riley Curtis there just setting an absolute blistering time. We got Mirko Dautanac, I believe, out on track as well, and he's been having a relatively strong season, um, but he's sort of been sort of starting a little bit further down than usual. Still learning a lot, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, he had that one great victory with his strategy earlier in the year, but this is a tough championship, and you've got to be trying to turn that on every single race. As another notable absentee is Ben Doherty tonight.
Yeah, Ben Doherty being here is going to be a bit of a change for him. He's been very consistent this season, Ben Doherty. He's been having some good runs. Of course, there have been a couple of accidents, unfortunately for him, and that's not helped. But when you're not showing up for these events, it really can hurt you because it means you've lost one of those dropout rounds. And when you've had a bad performance in a race prior, it's really going to make it more telling when you actually don't turn up for a race because you're effectively dropping that round out and then you have to take one of those poorer results as one of your actual rounds.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the longer it goes on, the more it starts to take an effect on the eventual goal of all the drivers, which is getting into that top 8 and getting into the chase. And that's exactly right. So
It is very much a sort of season of attrition, as it were. So you've got to really, of course, you've got to be in it to win it, as they say, but you've really got to be consistent and sort of make sure that you've got some spares towards the end of the season that you can use for those dropout rounds, as we see Norman Clark here on track at the moment.
yeah, he's just come in as the eighth fastest car on his first run. They seem to be getting a lot more pace out of their second run, so the tyres seem to come into their optimal and most competitive window on the second lap of their run. So we'll see what he can do this time round.
Yes, we'll have to keep our eyes peeled on this one, and he has improved there. Actually, it's third place. Good job for Norman Clark, and this, of course, is going to be some good omens for some of the drivers that haven't started their runs yet. We've got Darren McKenzie just heading out on track right now, but obviously we've got people like Danny G and Matt Danson, Jason Martin, all of that. Those guys still in the pit lane, still not setting a time. I wonder if they're waiting for some little bit of cloud cover or just the track to get a little bit sort of just a little bit of change in the ambient temperature, just to try and get the best time they possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, with a 10-minute session, you haven't really got much you can play with there. I mean, we're already 5 minutes and 30 seconds into it. They'll be out on track shortly to try and pop off Riley Curtis, which at the moment is his time's extremely competitive. I mean, he's only 0.021 ahead of Scurlock at present, but with all the times so close, it's actually, believe it or not, quite a significant margin.
Yes, and one of the big things that's going to affect somebody like Scurlock is the fact that he's sort of pushed away from teammates. With Norman Clark jumping up there into third spot, it's kind of ruined the Blokes Advice racing team's sort of. I'd imagine their sort of ideal position to be starting up in that sort of top 3, top 4 spots all together. But we have Dave Douglas and Edward Foster starting next to each other, of course, with Riley out front. And working on these sort of longer 1.5 mile tracks, you need to work with your teammates, obviously, to try and get that little bit of extra speed, just get a bit of in the draft, and just start sort of getting that teamwork in. So we have got Jason Martin heading out on track as I speak.
Yeah, now this is bound to be a competitive run. I mean, you might have a point there, Carl, about as the session goes on, the weather might be slightly changing, if anything, but as it goes on, it seems people are gradually getting faster. I mean, Darren McKenzie went into fourth fastest then with Norman Clark, and it's good to see Norman up there. I mean, MFR have had a pretty ordinary season so far, so he'll be well pleased to be up there in third, but there's still a lot of people left to qualify. As we watch Jason Martin now, it will be very, very quick as per usual, so we'll just have to see what he can get out of it this time.
Yes, and I was wondering if we would actually see people like Jason Martin, Danny G, and Josh Michelmore maybe starting from the pit, sort of just starting further back in the field, dropping back, and then just trying to work as a team to just push their way up. But it does look like Martin and Danny G are definitely trying to put in the lap time now, as Josh Michelmore does make onto the track. Jason Martin's coming around for his second lap now, and he is fastest. Yes, that
Yep.
was a very, very good lap by Jason Martin, but it does look like the track has evolved a bit because the Blake's Advice team were definitely fast in practice, but with these times coming in, it sort of does seem like the track evolution has come in.
Now here's Danny G on track for his first run as well. It'd be good to see him start to make his mark on this championship as well. I mean, he's still featuring in that top 10. He's always competitive, but like his teammate Josh, who's leading the championship, they haven't really shown that consistent form of challenging for wins. They've been there or thereabouts, but never that sort of Danson-esque performance of really having the measure of everybody else. So Martin will be trying to break the duck and get that first win, but I'm sure Danny G wants the same thing.
And a fantastic lap there by Danny G, putting him up into second place. Ryan Jones as well, just had a very good lap, putting him up into fourth.
Yeah, so the times are continuing to tumble. Matt Clute here for MFR also, he'll be pretty keen to get ahead of Norman Clark if the track continues to evolve. And potentially, it doesn't look like it's getting any cooler out there. So they are finding more time as the session goes on, however.
Yes, well, it is getting late in the afternoon. It's about 5:30, sort of, on the time in the race mode for the sort of timing there, which means that the sun is starting to slowly set in the night sky. So there's going to be some longer shadows at certain points of the track, which might cause a little bit of cooling in certain areas. Might just help people out a little bit there. But Matthew Clutch is coming around for his second lap now, and we'll see how he does for that one. And he's gone up to 12th place, so the track maybe not evolving as much as we thought. Josh Michelmore has jumped up to 4th place though, so yeah, Michelmore Motorsport are looking like they've got things where they want it to be.
Yeah, especially Jason Martin, who's starting from first. It looks like Matt Danson didn't set a lap, which is a bit unusual, but he's bound to have some speed and make his way through the pack and challenge like usual.
Yes, and we'll just start running through. I'll just run through the top 10. So, starting on pole position, first place is Jason Martin with Danny G next to him. On the second row is Riley Curtis with Ryan Jones next to him. On the third row of the grid, we have Josh Michelmore with Michael Scurlock. On the fourth row of the grid, we have Norman Clark with Darren McKenzie. Fifth row, we have Dave Douglas with Stephen Williams in 10th. I'll let you run down from 11th, James.
Yeah, Edward Foster will be disappointed with coming in 11th. Following him was Kai Sloggett, Matthew Clute, Chris Purnell, Joshua Carroll Walden, Mirko Dautanac, Roger Clark, and Matt Danson, who didn't set a time.
Yes, don't worry. It's one of those names that I stumble across many a time. It's one of those tricky names. But yeah, it's going to be frustrating for the Bloke's Advice team there. They're going to feel their spirits a little bit crushed, obviously, because they were doing so well in practice, and it just seems the qualifying times just let them down. Maybe just going out too early was just a bit of a flaw in their plan.
Yeah, I don't know how much we can read into that. I think he either hasn't got the pace, or they haven't got the pace, or they weren't too happy with either of their laps. I mean, we are only talking about a tenth here, but yeah, it's a significant margin in this sort of racing. But we'll see what they can do with their tyre life and see if they can do better than the rest of them and get themselves up there.
Yes, and of course we've got the fantastic starting parade happening now. As they go around, they're going to go around and get everything warmed up and ready to go. Now, of course, you're not going to win a race from the start. You can lose it, but with those Mitch Motorsport cars being there in the sort of top, sort of well, the sort of the top positions, they are looking like they're going to be possibly looking to try and run away with it a little bit earlier on. But Danny G starting on the outside, he's obviously going to want to try and make this race come to him a little bit more than his teammates, just to sort of get some dominance asserted over them, because it can be quite soul crushing when sort of everyone around you, especially teammates, do tend to be a little bit quicker and sort of getting those wins and things like that around you.
Yeah, let's hope so. I'm hoping that there is a bit of aggression from inside the team at Mitch Motorsports. It's not something I've seen yet. They have been working well together, but I don't see a lot of individual aggression there. Well, I haven't seen it yet, so it'd be good to see Danny G really take the challenge to Jason.
Yes, but that's one of the strengths of Mitch Motorsport this year, is just how well they've worked as a team. And we've
And
got the
we
green
go
flag,
green.
and away we go. So
So Jason Martin leads from Danny G, and sneaking into third is Riley Curtis from Ryan Jones, with up the inside from him is the third Mitch Motorsports car of Josh Michelmore.
yes, a fantastic start there by Jason Martin. Something we're growing kind of used to at some stages, especially last season. But Danny G is just coming down the inside now, just side by side. Looks like Danny G might be able to get this move done.
Yeah, that's a good move. That's what we need to see. Actually start, showing who's boss and asserting himself within the team. Also, even in the first lap or so, we've seen the top positions start to make their own pack, with Mitch Motorsports heading all three positions. I mean, the first other car is Riley Curtis there, who's in the Blokes Advice Racing car, with Ryan Jones also fending for himself. So we'll see if the other cars can come up into this pack, but so far it's really good racing.
Yes, and Josh Michelmore there is actually just starting to push Jason Martin a little bit from behind, and that has just left Danny G a little bit left out to dry. He's really just got to try and get up into that high line before Riley Curtis does, and get in that line with his teammates, otherwise he might start losing them here.
One guy has impressed me this season across all formats in ANZCAR has been Scurlock. He's been there or thereabouts, winning races. I think he's improved this season, so he's going to be one to watch tonight.
Scurlock has been having quite impressive form, and he has been doing very well. He had some very good races last year as well, and in some of the other aspects of the series, in the trucks and the Thunder, he's been having some good results as well. And he's one of those drivers that is just going to grow as it comes on. He's got some good raw pace, and just needs to start getting that consistency into the mix. And when that starts to happen, it's going to start causing some problems for some of the guys at the post.
So yeah, now he's sort of gone into a single file with Josh Michelmore making the move on Jason Martin. But you've got all three Mitch Motorsports cars in the top three positions.
Yes, and we have got a very low field tonight as well, with only 18 cars running. One guy just to glance back at is actually Matt Danson. He's currently just working his way up the field a little bit, but he's not really anywhere close. And this could really hurt him in this race, because if these cars start pulling out with this smaller field as well, we might be looking at quite a lot of green laps.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it was a decision he made to to not qualify, but if it is, it's a strange one. It's not the sort of track that, like, qualifying is a lot more important here than Bristol, where he has success. So we'll just have to see how he goes.
Yes, he does often like to try and set challenges for himself in races and things like that, where he will start from the back and try and win it from the back of the pack. But that's not always the best option, and you could really find yourself losing out quite big in a race like this, where there is a very good quality field. And
Yeah, well, there is a challenge. The challenge is winning the series. So
yeah, that's it.
do the best to do that. I mean, he's still nowhere near Jason Martin. He's 80 points. He's 80 points behind. So yeah, I think he needs to concentrate on that challenge rather than messing about back there.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that. He needs to actually start looking at the races as part of the series and looking for that series success, because at the moment he's starting to really just drop out of the picture, and that's not going to help him for any of the future of the series and the future of the sort of his championship hopes, which is what you really should be looking at here. It's great to have race wins and it's great to win from the back, but it's a silly decision to make when you could have a championship which you're just basically throwing away.
Yeah, I'll have to find out from him if it was his decision or not. As we see, Blokes Advice Racing actually looking like they do have some speed in their car, as they've got Edward Foster and Dave Douglas working together and coming up onto the back of Michael Scurlock.
Yes, and it looks like Riley Curtis.
They're going to make some progress.
Yeah, sorry, James. It just looks like Riley Curtis is just almost lifting off a little bit, just getting out to that high line, just to try and get his teammates just onto his tail and just start working a bit of a train to get towards the front with each other now.
Yeah, I think those guys need to work together, because all they're doing at the moment is making it nice and easy for Mitch Motorsports at the front. I mean, you haven't really got a lot of pressure on Danny G there in third. As Edward Foster makes a move there on Riley Curtis to go up a position, he looks to be the faster of the Blokes Advice Racing cars now, as he's moving onto the back of Michael Scurlock. I'm hoping he can keep that running and gain some positions, because those guys actually look quite competitive.
Yes, they do, and it would be good to see the Blokes Advice Racing team just getting up there a bit and just dicing it up a bit. But one of the things you did mention earlier was just how Mitch Motorsport doesn't seem to have any infighting and seems just to be working so well as a team and just really getting on well with each other. And it is really showing with their success this season. That's sort of working out so well for them, and obviously they just seem to be just doing this amazing job of working in harmony together. With Blokes Advice, now they've been working extremely well together too, but maybe they just need to try and sync up a little bit more with each other, just get a little bit closer to working with each other, and trying to really get one of them to get a race win at least, and not sort of focus on a race as a sort of for individuals. But we have just got some cars going through wide at the moment with Ryan Jones. Ryan Jones, sorry.
Yeah, you've got Darren McKenzie on the inside there with Riley Curtis and Ryan Jones, what you were mentioning. So hopefully they keep it together. One guy to watch is Edward Foster, though. He is hanging on to that lead group. He's dropped the cars behind him, and he does look to have some long run pace as we head into the 15th lap. So yeah, I'm hoping he can start mixing it in with those Mitch Motorsport cars, who at the moment, it has to be said, aren't really working together like we were discussing. I mean, you've got Josh Michelmore there taking the fight to Jason.
Yes, and they're not really working with each other too much. They are still racing each other, but they are pulling out a very good lead. Scurlock has managed to sort of catch on to the back of them and hold on there very well, and Edward Foster is just a little bit further back, and he's really going to want to try and catch that draft to get onto their tail. He's sort of within the range where he's going to be able to do that, of course. But it seems like Riley Curtis and everyone else behind have all fallen quite far back with that sort of free wide racing with the MFR guys and Ryan Jones there.
Yeah, I think the guys up the front seem to have the measure of the rest of them now. They are actually starting to make some gap, make a bit of a gap on the rest of the field. Edward Foster looks like he's just playing the waiting game at the moment, seeing which driver wants to work with him the most out of Scurlock and Danny G.
Yes, and I imagine Scurlock's going to probably become his closest ally at the front there, because he's the only other car that's not a Mitch Motorsport car. But if Danny G wants to try and take the race to his teammates and actually just get a little bit of aggression in there, just to try and force the point, he's not just going to be. Oh, and we've got contact down the back. We've just got contact down the back with Dave Douglas. And there is a big crash down the back with Dave Douglas and looks like Norman Clark, who has gone over. Big accident down the back.
It's yet another race and yet another accident for MFR, so it's unfortunate for them. It's just a common theme, unfortunately, for their team at the moment. Every accident seems to involve at least one of their cars.
Yes, it is very unfortunate for them. I'm just going to try and go back and have a look, but unfortunately, it was a bit of a it wasn't a part of the MFR team's fault. Norman Clark was pretty much just thrown into that accident, unfortunately. Ryan Jones had a bit of a tap with Dave Douglas and sent Dave out and spun him around, unfortunately. And the spinning Dave Douglas went straight into the side of Dave Douglas, and unfortunately for Norman Clark, he rolled the car.
As we go under caution for the first time.
So expect to see everybody jumping into the pits here, obviously, because even though this race is going to be, it's only not too far past yet, but everybody's going to be wanting to get on some fresh rubber. With only 21 laps in, it gets some fresh tyres on there, and really sort of get the cars ready for the next stint. As we see Jason Martin just overshooting the safety car a little bit there, caught by surprise there by a lot of people, and luckily it looks like nobody was caught out by the slowness of the safety car there.
Now, one thing I'd like to see Jason not do this evening is a pretend entry into the pit lane, as that's never fooled anybody in the history of NASCAR racing. So he's going to go in now, but I'm going to hope that that doesn't happen this evening, and if it does, I'm going to say something.
Yes, it's something we've been seeing a lot recently, and himself and Matt Danson are probably the main culprits of that false pit entry. And as you say, it doesn't really fool anyone. It's just a frustrating move, and it's a sort of can be a somewhat dangerous move as well, because you can catch the side of a car out as you're going through. And
And
Jason
Jason
Martin.
Martin went too far in his pit stall, and I'd like to say it's an uncharacteristic error, but if anything, it's becoming characteristic.
Yes, it's one of the common things, the Jason Martin Achilles pit stop, but it does look like he managed to get out first, but maybe because he only took one set of tyres or something else. Dave Douglas also did overshoot his pit box by quite a margin, but there was a fair amount of damage on that car, so that one you can absolutely forgive.
Matt Kloot's actually done well out of the pit stops. He's leapfrogged Edward Foster there. So yeah, we'll have to see if he's got any speed to stay up there, but he's gained a lot of time. So yeah, he may have been one of the drivers that only took a couple of tyres or something, but I would have assumed that most drivers would have taken 4 tyres.
Yes, you can only imagine that 4 tyres is the obvious choice right here, but with the mistake Jason Martin had, it cost him, a couple of tenths of a second, maybe about a second in his pit stop. But it does look like he took all 4 tyres. Just sort of going back and just sort of seeing if I can see anything quite obvious.
Matt Danson's actually made his way up quite a bit now. He's sitting right up in 9th place. So he is making his way through, and he obviously does have speed. So we'll see if he can continue to make progress. I mean, we're only on lap 123 of 150.
Yes, there is still a long way to go. Matt Clerk just had a fantastic stop. He had great traction coming out of his pit box and just absolutely caught everybody napping by the looks of it. He just flew past everybody. Um, Hopefully there wasn't a speeding infringement or anything like that in there. But he just had one fantastic stop. So we'll be going back to green flag racing very shortly. But the order has changed up a little bit. The order up front is still the same though, with Jason Martin in the lead and Josh Michelmore second, with Michael Scurlock in third and Danny G in fourth. So the sort of top four hasn't really changed, but Matthew Clewett has sort of thrown a spanner in the works again and just sort of got himself ahead of the Blokes Advice Racing team, who have also lost a bit of a bullet in their sort of their revolver, with Dave Douglas being pretty much out of this race now. He's very heavily damaged, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is a shame because he's shown pace throughout each of the sessions, so he'll be very frustrated with that. But you never know; it's a long race. He could feature again. But yeah, that damage is certainly going to hamper him, especially on a track like this, which they never really go any lower than 260 k's an hour. So it's heavily dependent on aero, whereas some of the other tracks that we've been at, the shorter, slower circuits, the slower you go, the less aero is important, as there's less wind resistance on those parts. So yeah, unfortunately that damage will hurt him the most at this sort of circuit and the super speedways.
Unfortunately so, and the cars are starting to stack up now, with Jason Martin just going to become the leader of the pack, so to say, and he's going to be leading everybody off for this next start. And I imagine he'll be on the radio to his teammates, letting them know when he's going to drop the hammer.
Yeah, the only thing I have noticed with that is he usually jumps them by a lot, so I don't know if he does tell them, which is good for his own personal gain. But yeah, we'll see what he can do. Usually the leader makes a big jump.
Yes, and they're all stacking up, ready to go, and it goes green, and yes, it looks like Jason Martin has made a decent start, but so has Josh Michelmore, just slicing down in front of Michael Scurlock there, just sort of cutting him off a little bit, trying to sort of provide a blocker for him, but Danny G's just caught in the sort of crossfire of that and drops down into fourth place, and sort of lost the tail of his teammates once more.
Scurlock's making a move, and so is his teammate Chris Purnell up the inside of Edward Foster. So Illusion Motorsport are now starting to feature. Mitch Motorsport will not want Scurlock involved in their party up front, and I think they're trying to hamper his progress, but he's doing well there, holding his own up the inside of Jason Martin, as Matthew Clute is still maintaining that spot. So that'll be frustrating Edward Foster immensely, as he wants to be up in that lead group.
He does, yes, and obviously one of the big things for Edward Foster as well is he's quite hungry for a cup win as well, I can imagine.
Yeah, 100%, as they all are. As Chris Purnell is right up his inside again, with Joshua Carroll Walden right in behind them. But Edward's starting to get some support from his teammate Riley Curtis, so they may be able to work together to make their way up further as they look to go to the high line.
Yes, the cars are getting very close as they just come onto the start-finish line, and look like Matthew Clute was looking to try and get into the middle between Danny G and Scurlock, but neither of those two drivers were wanting that to happen and just put the brakes on for that manoeuvre.
Yeah, Danny G's going down on that inside line. He might actually get some support there because Matthew Klute's showing some interest, and so is Chris Burnell, who seems to have quite a bit of pace at this point.
Yes, and Purnell just absolutely climbing his way up there. He has really got a good look of speed this time round, and that's really going to help Michael Scurlock as well. The Illusion Motorsport team haven't really been much of a focus this season. They've been sort of a little bit of a drift almost, but it would be nice to see a bit of a renaissance for them, just getting back up there and getting back up there for fights for the victory, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, as we've got
Oh,
contact,
very
well
good
held.
save there by Chris Purnell.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, I think it was Matthew Klute who made contact with him there, and he held it. Yeah, that could have easily been a massive accident. So yeah, great driving there from Chris. Yeah, the only team that has really featured consistently has been Mitch Motorsport, as we've discussed about how that benefits Jason, as he seems to have different rivals every single race. He's always first, like, in the top two. He's been winning in other series, but not in this one as yet, but it's bound to happen. So yeah, it'd be good to see Illusion make a fight of it.
Yes, and just trying to have a little bit of a glance at Purnell's car, and it looks like he has received a little bit of damage just to the front right of his car, just above the wheel guard. So a little bit of damage there might hamper his speed a little bit. But what a save! That must have been one of the saves of the year. We've had a couple of good saves like that this season, and it does just show the quality of the drivers out there again.
Yeah, Chris is a quality driver in all forms of racing, so yeah, I'm not surprised. As Edward Foster once again has got himself a solid partner there in Joshua Carroll Walden to try and make his way up onto that lead group. He'll be relieved that he's ahead of Matthew Klute. And once again, he has shown speed as he comes up onto the back of Danny G there. But he hasn't been able to have Riley go with him as he would have been hoping for.
No, he really would love to be able to get Riley Curtis behind him and actually get to working with him. But it does look like he's going to try and start working with, make a move on Danny G first of all. But maybe those two start need to work together because they are just dropping a little bit from the lead three of Scurlock, Martin, and Michelmore. But I imagine one of the big reliefs for Edward Foster there would be seeing Klurt drop back a bit, along with, unfortunately, Chris Purnell as well. But them sort of with that little bit of a tap there in that moment, it's really helped him get his momentum back and able to just get back into that sort of the sort of head of the race, that sort of top 5 position.
Yeah, he's trying to latch onto the draft of Scurlock and hold that inside line, but he's just a little bit out of reach.
Yes, and sometimes just trying to hold that in a line and really just fighting it for it is not the best option, because even though the inside of the track is obviously the shortest section of the track, you do put a little bit more strain on the tyres, especially when you're going around corners at incredible speeds that these cars are doing.
Matt Danson's continuing his progress. He's now looking to make a move on Riley Curtis. So yeah, I think he's definitely going to end up featuring in this race. We're only on lap 36. So we may be eating our words about his theory, if it was a theory to start further back in the pack, or whether he was late to arrive. But yeah, we'll see how he goes.
Yes, we will, and I'm sure there. It just did look like Riley just had a little bit of a moment, just a slight tank slapper as he was going through one of the corners. Just not looking entirely happy in that car as well. He's just having a little bit of a wiggle as he's going through the corners. He doesn't look completely settled as he's going round, and I wonder if that's hampering his performance. Oh, big contact there, Darren McKenzie and Riley Curtis.
Yeah, we'll see if it brings the caution out as he slides back up onto the track, and it does. Now, unfortunately, second week running that Mackenzie's got himself caught up with a Bloke's Advice racing car.
Absolutely, but I must say one of the luckiest people there was Mirko Dautanac, who just must have uh, must have just shut his eyes and prayed there as he went between the two cars as they were rejoining the track. That was one heck of an accident, and that could have been a really bad moment for Mirko Dautanac, who was just a passenger in that sort of crash. He had nowhere to go, but luckily he threaded it through the eye of the needle and managed not to have a massive crash there.
Yeah, it was well held by Riley Curtis, actually. He ended up losing control right at the end, but he avoided damage, which he'll be very relieved about. As long as he doesn't go a lap down and can get up behind that pack, he'll be relieved.
Yes, it's he's going to be really hopeful that he can get sort of back there. So just going to go back and just see if I can get a bit of a look on that accident as it was happening. But I imagine we'll be getting cars into the pit lane very shortly.
Yeah, looking at the incident, the way I saw it is I don't think Riley really expected him to be there. And yeah, Mackenzie just hit him up the inside and that was it.
Yes, it just looked like a little bit of a moment, and Mackenzie just sort of, both of them just sort of seemed unsighted. It was a very big accident, but a lot of people lucky not to get really held up in that one.
As Jason Martin stops accurately on his marks, which we'll be pleased about. Darren Mackenzie not so lucky. So we should expect to see Jason Martin rejoin in the lead, as he does with his teammate Josh Michelmore directly behind him. One thing to point out of Josh Michelmore this season, and you have to take your hat off to him, is he's actually had, despite all races and the length they are, the full Daytona 500, he's not had one incident. And for the viewers at home, one incident in iRacing is not one touch with another car, not one wheel on the grass, not one spin, not one mistake. So he's done all of these laps, and he's the only driver in the field who's actually been able to achieve that. So hats off to him, because he's not only leading the championship, but he's done so faultlessly. So he's got a completely clean record at the moment.
That is one heck of an achievement as well, because it is very hard. Obviously, I've not had much experience racing these cars. I've had a couple of goes, and hopefully we'll be getting back to it at some stage soon. But it is so easy just to have that incident. You know, you just cut the corner a little bit too much. You just get a tiny brush with the wall, or you get a slight brush with somebody else. It is such an easy thing to do. And
Well, to put it into perspective, is Jason Martin has 19 incidents so far, and he's, as we well know, is one of the top drivers in the season. Edward Foster 45. So yeah, the fact that he's on a flat 0 is quite a statistic. So he should be very proud of that.
it is almost miraculous. It's a very good achievement, and it just does show that the sort of driver that Josh Michelmore is, and he is very metronomic. He's just extremely good at setting those fast laps, keeping it clean, keeping it on the tarmac, and not making mistakes.
Yeah, if he can get through to the end of the season with that record, it'd be something pretty incredible, especially in this sort of racing. I mean, you're racing so closely together all season long. You're semi-relying on the skill of the other drivers as well not to touch it, because that counts as an incident also. But yeah, I don't know how he's done it, but yeah, it's a good effort.
Yes, it is a fantastic job, and you know, it's just, as I said, it's one of those things. He just seems to have this knack of just being able to just keep his car just out of wreckages and keep him out of trouble. He just, eh, mainly because he sort of keeps to that front pack where there isn't that sort of that many incidents usually happening, thankfully.
So the usual suspects have sort of maintained their position. You've seen Matt Danson make more progress again through the stops, but consistently Mitch Motorsports have got speed. Scurlock's been able to prove that he can hang on. Joshua Carroll Walden has always been in the picture also, and obviously Edward Foster, and occasionally one of the other Blokes Advice cars will come up into the mix. So we'll see if Illusion can make a move as well. They showed some speed at the beginning of the previous stint, so now that they've all got fresh tyres again, we'll see if they can make some progress. But I think Danson will be the one to watch this time, as he's a lot closer to the front than he was before. And he's out of the clutches of some of the slower guys. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
We will, and the car's just starting to get ready for that restart now, so the safety car will be slowly slipping its way into the pits, and Jason Martin will become the pace car itself, a position that he finds himself in very often.
Yeah, as the leader, you sort of decide when to go. So Jason Martin will be waiting for the pace car to go as it does and get ready to drop the hammer, as he does right now, and he gets a brilliant start on the rest of the field.
That did look like a fantastic start, but there was also a really good orchestrated move there by his teammates. Danny G and Josh Michelmore just boxed in Michael Scurlock and really put him off and caught him out with that restart. It's really dropped him back a bit and really sort of hurt his position for now, but we could always see him gaining that back and getting back up to the front.
Edward Foster's made a good start, so he's actually got himself up to the inside of Danny G, looking at the back of Scurlock. So we'll see if him and Scurlock can work together against Mitch Motorsports.
Oh, and
as
contact.
Edward Foster makes contact with Danny G, who saves it. That was another extremely close incident, and I think there was also contact there between one of the Illusion cars and that dance. So how that was proportion, I don't know, but they've all held it.
Yes, everybody held that so well. I believe that would have been Chris Purnell again, just having a fantastic little save. He had just a bit of a wobble. Of course, nobody just slammed on the brakes, which is sometimes just an instinctive thing in an instance like that. But brilliant job again. Danny G wanting to go for that Save of the Night award, obviously. It seems like everybody is competing for that at the moment.
Yeah, one of the things in these cars, when it does get out of shape, one of the worst things you can do is go to correct it like you would in a road car. So if you go to steer into the slide too much, it'll just snap on you and put you into the outside wall. So you sort of have to hold the wheels straight and let the car sort of bring itself back into line. And it's something you've got to work on when you first start, but it sort of comes naturally to these guys who are on ovals for so much of their driving.
Yes, and that's one of the big challenges with these oval cars, is they are just such different monsters to drive. And, you know, there are people that, you know, obviously just do road racing, exclusive and track racing, things like that. And some people, they do just go, oh yeah, oval racing, it's not that hard. And they sort of just don't look at the actual cars, just how actually intense and hard it is, because these cars are extremely hard to drive. They're not the easiest things to get used to. And yes, you're just going round sort of a left-hand corner most of the time, but it's the degree of turn. You're travelling at such speed, just the slightest change of input will cause your car to go around. And if you're caught in an incident like that, where you just get a little tap, it is so easy to lose the car and to crash it. And it's often a thing we see with people that do race exclusively to sort of road, thing like that, is they go in for the correction on an instant like that and just correct it.
Yeah, that's right. And usually the road drivers, and I was one of these when I first came into doing oval racing, they usually cook their tyres a lot faster than the oval guys do, as they've sort of mustered the art of the least amount of steering input possible to put the least amount of stress on the tyre. As we may possibly have a new leader, that Josh Michelmore has been, I think it is a tactic of theirs to stay side by side, but he's certainly been keeping Jason Martin honest. He hasn't been able to make any sort of gap on the field, as we've seen in previous races.
No, they've really been keeping each other there, and it doesn't look like Scurlock's just pushing Michelmore just to try and get him ahead of Martin. Hopefully he's trying to sort of get the teammates racing a little bit here. and try and get an advantage as well. And as we speak about all of this, Chris Purnell, who had that big moment earlier in the race, is creeping his way back up to the front, and that's going to mean 2 Illusion cars up there and 2 Mitch Motorsport cars, which could be a defining factor towards the end of this race.
Yeah, consistently throughout the race, you've had Mitch Motorsport have speed, but I think Edward Foster in particular for Bloke's Advice and Chris Purnell and Scurlock, of course, have all had the speed to lead the race. It's just a matter of breaking that stranglehold that Mitch Motorsport have been able to have on it so far. As Josh Michelmore, the championship leader, followed by his teammate, who's ironically second in the championship, currently lead the field as Edward Foster looks to make a move on Michael Scurlock. So we'll see if he can get the draft off Jason. But Scurlock looks like he's holding the higher line. You'll probably see Chris Purnell look to work with his teammate before Edward Foster.
And it does look like that is actually happening, as Purnell is just going down the inside of Foster and just trying to get latched onto the back of Scurlock. But Edward Foster putting up a good defence there, and it's just caused Purnell just to have to lift off a little bit and fall back into the clasp of Joshua Carroll Walden, who is a guy we've talked about a little bit tonight, but he's not had the pace it looks like to lead this race. He doesn't look like he's got the pace to be a contender for a victory on outright speed, but he has had the pace to be in that sort of top 6 easily all night. He's got a he seems to be doing very well tonight. He's really doing well, and he's just having a very good season of these sort of very strong results, and it's really opening up a lot of people's eyes and really making them notice him a little bit now.
As Edward Foster chops the nose off Michael Scurlock there and moves up into second place. So now he's going to start looking at Jason Martin. What is looking good about this lead group is now you actually have all of the fast cars all together. So you've even got Matt Danson catching up onto the back there. So this is going to get interesting as we're going 3 wide on the exit of turn 4. Edward Foster looking to get that move done on Josh Michelmore, and he has got it done, but now he's got to get that support to get onto the back of Jason Martin and make a fight of it. But Josh will not want that to happen, as Illusion looks to take the inside line there with Scurlock, followed by Purnell. Unfortunately, Edward Foster's all on his own there to try and take this on.
He is, and it just looked like maybe Michelmore might have just had a slight brush with the back of Edward Foster's car. If not, he got very, very close. It just was one of those moments where it looks like he just maybe made a little bit of a nibble at the back of it. But almost brushing paintwork with each other there. Very, very good close racing by these guys. And Jason Martin is now just going to want to try and make pace and get out of Dodge. Try and get out of this grasp of this lead sort of group, because he's no longer got his tail gunner there in the form of Michelmore, who is dropping back.
Yeah, hopefully we haven't jinxed Michelmore's no incident rating, talking all about it. But yeah, you've got all 3 different teams, all the main teams up the front with 1 representative from each. So you've got Mitch Motorsports, followed by, it's close to say at the moment, Bloke's Advice and Illusion Motorsports. So yeah, you've got both teams represented there, but unfortunately for Edward Foster, only one of the Bloke's Advice cars. So, and Matt Danson there, obviously all by himself as well. So Matt Danson once again has speed and is slowly creeping up into this battle. We'll see if he'll start to feature later on, as we're only coming up on half distance. So there's a long, long way to go yet.
Yes, we've only had half this race, and it does feel like we've almost had a full race already. This race can only get more interesting as it goes along, obviously. It's going to be interesting to see who can go for this battle for the win. At the moment, it does look like Illusion might be in for a good chance of getting a good result here, because they've managed to separate the Mitch Motorsport boys. Getting Edward Foster up there is a good idea, because it's more of a... If you can get in front of him, it's going to be a sort of bumper towards Josh Michelmore as well. And now Matt Danson's trying to get a look in there as well.
Yeah, he's continuing to make progress. I've noticed Edward Foster was sort of still sticking with that high line. I think he might be starting to look at conserving his tyres because he's going to want to hold this position at least till the next stop. So when they do take more tyres on, he's going to be on fresh rubber with Jason Martin close up again and be competitive, because at the start of each stint he's looked very fast, as have the Illusion cars, so he won't want to lose track position from here. As Matt Danson makes a move, and I believe was Michael
Would have-
Scurlock,
Yeah, it
and
did look like
he's
maybe Scurlock touched the wall there, I think, or maybe just brushed it slightly. Uh, and yeah, it does look like the Illusion boys actually had a little bit of coming together as well. Purnell has got some front damage, and it does. Sorry, Scurlock has some front damage, I believe, and Purnell has some rear damage, and it looks like those two cars just had a little bit of a bump, and that's caused them to lose a bit of pace. And that might be a real big loser for the two Illusion cars.
well, Purnell nearly made contact with Edward Foster there, and I think he had to lift off the throttle, which has given Danson a chance. So Danson, I think, has actually got quite a bit of pace, quite a bit more pace there than he's showing, because he's been able to come up onto the two Illusion cars and sort of take his time passing them. But I think he's actually got a lot of pace spare, and I also think Martin is actually managing this. I think he's got speed as well. So once
Yes.
again, it's the two main protagonists.
Well, one of the things those two can do, and especially Matt Danson, when he writes his autobiography, How I Preserve My Tyres, he's very good at looking after those tyres and prolonging the life of them as well, as we are starting to get some back markers coming into play with Ryan Jones and Darren McKenzie.
Oh, I'll tell you what, mate, that does not sound like a thrilling read, to be honest. Oh, that
I
would
imagine
be really
Crompo would be
ordinary.
all over it.
I'm sure he will, him and Jensen Button. Anyway, because Edward Foster has actually made ground there onto the back of Jason Martin, so he'll be all over this one. He's got Chris Purnell and Matt Danson behind him. It would be good if they could actually start. I mean, I know the aero is different now and everything, but if they can start sort of working together just to close that gap up again and give Jason Martin a bit of a headache.
Yes, and it would be good to see another leader as well. It's always nice to see some more leaders on the board for these races, and it's not a huge advantage you get, of course, for leading a lap, but it always helps. And we've got a yellow, we've got a caution just come out. Oh, and a big crash down the back. Quite a few cars involved. It looks like Ryan Jones possibly, and I'll just try and go back and see what happened there. I saw Ryan Jones and an MFR boy involved in that.
It was Matthew Clute. So unfortunately, I know I've said it before, but I'll say it again, it's an accident and it's MFR. So they will not be pleased with that one.
No, but just going back to look at that one, a bit of an odd one. It did look a little bit like maybe Ryan Jones was not aware of Clue underneath him and just turned into him and just a bit of a passenger. Although MFR have been involved in a lot of instances this season, but this race it's not really been any of their own fault.
No, I just saw that one. It looked like Ryan Jones touched the outside wall. So, yeah, he definitely wasn't at fault that time, Matthew Clute, so he'll be spewing about that one. But, yeah, it just seems to be something that continuously happens to their team, but at that time, no fault on their part.
Yes, the Dave Douglas effect of managing to get yourself in the worst possible place at the worst possible time. So we're
As they all enter the lane to get new tyres. So you've got all of the main guys there, Edward Foster, Jason Martin, all taking tyres. So Edward Foster will be looking to make sure he retains that P2 spot. He'll want to make sure he's right on the back of Jason Martin with fresh rubber so he can take the fight to him. But it looks like Danson has actually leapfrogged Foster in the stop and Martin still leads. So we're going to have Danson right up in second place from Edward Foster.
Yeah, Danson has made made a lot of progress this race, obviously starting down the back and working his way up to sort of second position. Um, so good job from him. Sort of winners and losers in that pit stop. Danny G looks like he might have really struggled, but it does look like he maybe was just going for a bit of repair because his car is uh, it's not looking very not looking like it has a very good resale value at the moment.
So yeah, Riley Curtis has brought himself up onto the back of Joshua Carroll Walden, who's behind the two Illusion cars there with Purnell, the leader of those two, but it's still Edward Foster sort of on his own. But what we have lost is the other Mitch Motorsport cars. So they're not up there with Jason anymore. So yeah, Josh has dropped back and so has Danny G. So he doesn't have that protection that he had earlier on, where they were looking at just running that double file up the front, sort of blocking any other move that could happen.
Yes, Mitch Motorsport are really going to have to try and make a push for it, and I don't think Danny G is going to be in a place to actually help Josh Michelmore, in all honesty, in the rest of this race. Michelmore as well, his car does look like it's got a little bit of panel damage to the right-hand side as well, but Danny G, I'm just trying to figure out what happened to him, because he has got an enormous amount of damage on that car.
Yeah, right, I didn't catch any of that earlier on, so yeah, that's unfortunate for them. One thing I am happy to see is a different colour on Danson's car. I really, really didn't like that rainbow colour. It really annoyed me. But yeah, now just plain black looks a lot better.
Okay, just glancing back and trying to work out what happened, and oh, it looks like Danny G just caught himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, and went into the side of a spinning Matthew Clewett, who got caught out by Ryan Jones, I think it was. So yeah, Danny G has got an enormous amount of damage to the front of that car. He's going to be he's not going to be looking very good for the rest of this race, I don't think.
Just checking out Josh Micklemore's car. It's probably spotless as per usual.
Good to hear. Yeah, so I was sort of trying to have a glance. Sometimes it is a bit tricky to sort of see on the side of these cars if there is a sort of like any bits of damage. I just thought I caught a little bit, but obviously not.
Yes,
And he again.
Scurlock's got a little bit of damage on his outside front, so I think he's brushed a wall at one point.
Well, Scurlock and I believe Purnell had a coming together, so I think that was actually from a result of that. Um, I think you'll find that Chris Purnell has got a matching dent in the rear of his car, on the rear left, I think it was. So I think those two had a bit of a coming together and have just caused themselves a little bit of damage. So a lot of cars carrying a bit of battle damage out there now, and this is only really going to help people like Edward Foster, Matt Danson, and Jason Martin, who are up the front without any sort of visible damage to those cars.
We're not even halfway through yet, and it looks like the field is just continuing to get smaller, which is unusual for this circuit, because usually you can go the full race. I wouldn't say usually, but it is common that you can get an all-green race at Charlotte.
Yes, and with this field so small too, and we got the restart. Jason Martin pulls away very well, with Matt Danson just catching on very well as well. Edward Foster, the big loser of that restart by the looks of things, he's just lost out on a bit of position with Chris Purnell, but he's trying to hold on his best so he doesn't drop back any further.
Yeah, and he's got the Illusion cars behind him, and Joshua Carroll Walden, who without a teammate continues to have to fend for himself as well. So Purnell's looking to hold that high line, and it looks like he got his teammate Scurlock trying to work with him there to help that along. Edward Foster holds down third place. He should cut down to the inside to block off Josh here, which he does.
Yeah, some really good blocking there by Foster. He was just positioning that car in the perfect position as he was going through that turn.
as they go 3 wide, you've got Joshua Carroll Walden and I believe Josh Michelmore there and one of the Illusion cars.
Yeah, so we've got Michael Scurlock just dropping down a little bit, with Riley Curtis climbing his way back. Riley Curtis, of course, was skimming across the infield earlier on this race, and he's had a really good fight back up to get some decent positions. Oddly, for one of these longer speedways, a lot of people are sort of managing to have some incidents and keep on the lead lap, which is a hard thing to do sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. As Josh Michelmore's made a move on Edward Foster and actually got that position, so he's holding that inside line and looking like he's going to get 4th place, so he is moving his way back up the field with Purnell in 3rd and Danson in 2nd. So Danson, who had that dominant win at Bristol, he's coming onto the back of Martin, who's yet to get a win, as we've discussed, but is really one of the main drivers in this championship. But he'll be wanting to make a point and holding that spot. He's probably sick and tired of Danson and some of the other guys like taking these wins away from him, because he's been in the running to win races every single time. So he'll be wanting to hold this one. He's been the best car tonight, so yeah, he'll definitely want to get his himself off the mark and put himself into the front of the championship.
And Jason's a pretty level-headed guy as well, but it does... Sometimes the psyche of motorsport is when you are, even though you're getting some good positions, just not getting those wins can really be a detriment to your own sort of mental health almost, because you just start getting frustrated and you could start making mistakes. So getting that sort of win out the way is almost a good thing sometimes, because once you've done it, then you can just go, well, I can now just finish 2nd for the rest of the races, and I'm going to be sort of through without any trouble.
As Chris Purnell moves up into 2nd place, which is as high as he's been all race, so he's made a move on Matt Danson there. And it's surprising, because usually Danson becomes increasingly competitive as the stint goes on due to how he manages tyres, which Carl brought to our attention in his book. But yeah, he actually got overtaken there, and Purnell's looking really competitive.
And I do wonder how much of that is just Matt Danson just trying to not push too much at this early in the stint, just keeping those tyres a little bit fresher for the whole run. Because obviously the field has thinned a little bit, and although there's still some very tight racing on the track, there is a chance that we could go green from here on in, and if that happens, you're going to want to try and preserve tyre life as much as possible.
Yeah, well, Martin knows all about that, so he knows he can sit there and defend position and keep those tyres in good health. He's an expert at doing that, so that's what he'll be looking at doing now. Purnell will be interested in trying to lead this race and make sure that he can hold that track position as he makes a move early. We'll see how hard Jason Martin actually fights this, or whether he's willing to settle into 2nd. It looks like he is going to fight it hard as they go side by side down the back straight, with Matt Danson looking to... Who's he going to choose? He's going to choose Purnell at this point to be a draft partner, with Edward Foster sitting there in 4th, with Joshua Carroll Walden 5th, and Josh Michelmore, the championship leader, in 6th place, with Riley Curtis, the 2nd of the Blokes Advice racing cars, there in 7th.
Yes, the enemy of my enemy becomes my friend sometimes. So, with Chris Purnell being there and having some good speed and looking like he's actually still got good speed despite a little bit of damage, I think Danson is probably going to try and choose him, try and get him up there, trying to get him past Martin to actually slow Martin down a little bit as well. Because one thing, getting past Martin is just going to throw him a little bit off his balance, but also it means that, if there is a slightly slower car ahead of him, it's going to make Matt Danson's life a little bit easier too.
Yeah, Purnell definitely looks like he's got the pace despite the damage, like you mentioned, which is quite impressive actually. That he can stick with Martin as he's doing and hold off Danson. This is helping Edward Foster, however. He's able to close up onto the back of Danson and maintain position. With Josh Michelmore now coming up into fifth, so they're sort of all in a row now. We'll see towards the end of the stint who's actually going to keep those tyres lasting the longest. As Purnell hits the wall, he'll be spewing about that. That's allowed Edward Foster and Matt Danson through, and that's also given a chance to Josh Michelmore.
And they just about go free wide as Purnell tries his best to save it, but he is just falling back into the grasp of Michelmore. Foster just looks like he might have just been caught a little bit out by that, having to lift a tiny bit. But Danson was just straight on that. Really good situational awareness and speed there by Matt Danson as well, just to keep on there. We've got Riley Curtis down there with Joshua Carroll-Walden as well. And they're trying to start to sort of get each other up a little bit further towards the front, and Scurlock as well is up there too, and he's going to really want to try and get up there despite the damage. He did look like he had a relatively fast car. The Illusion cars have looked like they've been running well this weekend. I think Purnell just went into the wall again. I think a big hit into the wall this time.
Yeah, it's so easy to do that. The exit of that corner sort of creeps up on you. It's almost like the wall comes towards you as you've got Matt Danson now making a move for the lead on Jason Martin.
We do, and we're getting, I think it's a lap car just going to be coming into the action of these leaders soon. I do wonder, though, if Purnell is actually probably able to run a little bit better in a pack close behind somebody because of the aero damage. Just because it's sort of, obviously you've got a little bit less downforce and stuff when you follow a car, but there's also a big hole in the air as well, and when you've got sort of a very unaerodynamic car, once you've had a bit of a crash in these things, having that car ahead of you obviously is going to cut a bit of air in front of you and just make it a little bit easier to follow. I wonder if maybe in the open air he's really struggling to keep that car sort of on position.
Yeah, Josh Michelmore looks like he's got some speed to make a move on Edward Foster. Riley Curtis is a little bit further back. Edward Foster will be willing him on to get into this fight because he could really use some support to take it to Mitch Motorsports this evening.
Yeah, they do need to basically fire that opening salvo and just say to Mitch Motorsport, look, you don't have this series wrapped up yet, guys. We still have a chance. But unfortunately, they've still not really managed to do that. They've not managed to fire those warning shots and not really managed to put themselves into a position where they can obviously make that statement. And a lot of it's through no fault of their own, especially people like just sort of talking there. Sorry. Looked like Stephen Williams just had a big moment just down towards the back of the pack, going into the wall. Or no, actually, I think it was Scurlock. Sorry, Scurlock again actually going into the wall. So he's really struggling out there. The Illusion cars, although they looked pretty good earlier on, they're starting to look like they're really struggling now.
Edward Foster's having a great battle here with Josh Michelmore. They were running extremely close and they're doing it again on the turn 1 and 2. On the exit of 2 last lap, they actually nearly touched as Edward Foster was trying to sort of limit the exit as much as he could of Josh Michelmore. If you've got a driver up your inside that's making move and you're the outside car, you're basically dictating the exit of that driver's corner, and the more you can come across, the more that hinders his exit. So the more you can move over and make it hard for him, the more he's going to have to lift and the tighter his corner becomes. So that's what Edward Foster was trying to do there, and it's actually kept his position. As he tries to do it again, he just keeps his car in the middle of the road and stops Josh from getting the exit that he's going for.
Yeah, he's just keeping his car just really well positioned tonight. Edward Foster been running that middle line almost a lot of the time, and then sort of the high line as well. And that looks like it's really been helping him in that sort of ability to keep cars behind him. But while they're doing this, we've got Matt Danson chasing down Jason Martin and really having a good battle for the lead. While these two are fighting it out, though, it's allowing Foster and Michelmore to just close the gap a little bit.
Yeah, as hard as Danson tries, he seems to throw his car into the low line and get close to Martin, but Martin's just able to carry that momentum up high, and it's not really troubling him at this point. It's been going on lap after lap. I think Martin may have some speed. I think he's more comfortable than he's letting on at this point. He's been up there all night, and I think that he is actually, like, Danson's obviously fast, but I think he's got it well in hand at the moment. He'll be very disappointed if he can't convert this into a victory.
Yes, and I think he will be really devastated if this one doesn't work out in his favour. And again, as I said, you have to get the whole sort of psyche into question, because when these things start happening and you do just can't get that win, especially in sort of a certain series, it can get really frustrating, and it can lead you to sort of sometimes just lose your cool a little bit and just make little mistakes, or lose a little bit of the driving style that you normally have, which can result in a little bit worse wear on tyres and stuff like that.
As they've now been side by side for, this is the second full lap, Martin's just sitting there holding that high line, and there doesn't seem to be much that Danson can do about it. He seems to have more speed on corner entry, as we see now, but as that corner exit, the high line comes into its own, and trying to get that move going is proving to be very difficult. And we're seeing the same in third and fourth, with, once again, great racing between Josh and Edward there. It seems to be actually extremely difficult to pass, because both lines, low or high, have their own strengths. As leader of the race now is actually Matt Danson for a fraction of a second, as Jason Martin took it back. So they're both practically sharing the lead at this point, as they both just stick to their own game plan there and hold the line they want to run.
But most importantly for Jason Martin is the fact that he is just tending to lead across the line, and that's what you want to have in a car on this kind of track. Is it doesn't matter how close you're racing. If you're able to be in front comfortably every time round on that last sort of bend and the checkered line, if you're able to cross that every time first, it is looking good for you.
One thing that will be in Martin's favour up there is it should preserve his tyres more, because he won't be using as much steering input as Danson's having to, because staying low on the exit of the corner, Danson will be using more steering input. Sort of the higher you go, the more the banking comes into its own, and you can use the centrifugal force to keep the car around in that line, and that's what gives you, sort of propels you into that exit, as Danson does finally get that move done and takes the lead of this race after starting from the back with us criticising his decision.
Yes, and as often the case for commentators, we'll either cause somebody to have a problem out on track, or we will cause ourselves to have a problem in the booth, because no matter what we say, the opposite will always happen.
And it looks like now finally taken the position, you've got Josh Michelmore up in third, so he's going to be looking to get onto the back of Jason Martin, and they might try and work together, but it doesn't look like nobody tonight has sort of gone in single file and been able to get the draft to work for them. If anything, whenever you see two cars together, they seem to be sharing two different lines. So if Mitch Motorsports can get together and try and make something happen, they'll be going for it. I mean, as we discussed earlier, as the race goes on and the field gets more spread out, you're less prone to caution. So this is a critical point in the race.
Yes, it did. We've got Chris Purnell coming in for a pit stop. And it looks like all the Illusion cars are actually pitting. We've got Purnell, Dautanac, Scurlock, and the only car not to pit from the Illusion stable, I think, is Stephen Williams. So yeah, bit of a tactical stop here, maybe by Illusion, but not sure what's going on there. Dautanac does really make a pig's ear out of that pit stop as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was unfortunate because their night was going so well, wasn't it? They were up there and they had speed, so we'll have to see if they can feature later on. But we're 2/3 through the race now.
Yeah, still a long way to go. Not in a bad way though. It's not been a tedious race for sure, but it's one of those races that it's just going. It sort of feels like it's only just almost started, and you feel like, oh, it's probably going to be getting towards the end, and there's still a fair few laps to go, and we are starting to see these cars just starting to spread out a bit. Matt Danson has just taken a heck of a lead, though. He has gained um, almost a second gap over Jason Martin behind him.
Yeah, he's definitely showing some speed, as I think he's had for a while. So yeah, my theory about Jason having some speed in the end has gone out the window. I think tyre wear actually might be starting to feature, as we're starting to see some cars considerably faster than others. You've got, I think that's Chris Purnell out there now on the fresh tyres, and he's just flying past Matt Danson there. So you never know, they might be able to feature later on. They might be going for the strategy like banking on that there will only be green flag stops from now on. And if they can get some fast laps in now and make a lot of progress, they're undercutting the leaders, but it's a long shot at this point.
Yes, well, they're going to try and use the sort of strategy that Dortmund had in that in his win this year of sort of getting that pit stop and then sort of undercutting everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's not likely now that we're going to have a caution, so we'll see how this strategy can work.
So the thing with rolling the dice is you'll either come out a hero or a zero. It's one of those things you have to make a decisive move and just stick with it, and it could be a very good option for one of these cars that has looked like. And we just see Michelmore coming in for a pit stop, and Foster is coming in straight behind him. Foster looked like he was just going to carry on, but he decided to pit with Michelmore. Hopefully, did manage to stop the car in time and get across the line without any speed penalties. But they just left. Well, Foster left it to the very last second. Michelmore, of course, just made the sort of decision almost split second, but obviously these guys are feeling a little bit
Martin pits.
pressured.
So
And yes,
Jason
Jason
Martin has
Martin's
now entered
coming
the
in
lane,
too.
but Matt Danson has not pitted. So one thing I've noticed, I always thought that Martin was the kindest on his tyres, but I think Danson actually looks after his tyres even more, and that can be down to just your natural driving style or a conscious effort. As Jason Martin does stop on his marks correctly, with Josh Michelmore coming in behind him, both of them taking rubber, and they'll be
That's
all good to go
Danny
to
G, sorry.
Danny G. Sorry, mate. Um, so I'm not sure if they can actually make it to the end on fuel. I think they probably could. It's only 40 laps. So now, if there's no cautions, this is the race to the end.
The big question is, though, is can they make it to the end on tyres? Because it looks like,
Here's the
obviously,
illusion cars as well coming onto the back of Jason Martin. So Jason Martin is just barely going to get track position over them as they're working like crazy to get past him, as Scurlock does, and Purnell's going for it as well. They're nearly 3 wide. Jason Martin not completely up to speed, but now he's got Josh Michelmore with him to try and help.
Yes, and Joshua Carroll Walden as well has come in for that stop too. So all these guys just pitting, and it does look like Illusion really made a good roll of the dice there, and they've really helped themselves out. And one of the big sort of losers on that pit stop was Edward Foster. He's just dropped off that sort of pack a fair bit. Um, and that sort of really hasn't paid off well for him. Maybe he should have looked at trying to make that pit stop a little bit earlier on, and try to sort of do it when the illusion cars did. It could have really helped him out, but of course hindsight is one of those most amazing skills, is it can make you sound much smarter than you are.
Matt Danson still hasn't pitted, and he's lapping a second a lap slower than the other guys. I hope he's not leaving it too long like he's done at previous races and not giving himself enough time to catch them back up at the end of the race. We'll have to wait and see how his strategy works.
Yes, well, because how long were those, have they been running these last tyres? I was just trying to think when Danton. So about 45 laps for Danton now on these tyres. So we've still got a fair few laps to go. So we've got another 40. 36 laps to go, so there's still a fair few laps to go. Maybe Matt Danson's hoping that a later pit stop will mean he'll have fresher tyres and then he can go for the chase, or these guys are just hanging out here and praying for a caution to try and get this working in their favour.
Yeah, I think Danton will be pitting any lap. I mean, he's got to do it soon, because otherwise he's not going to be able to make up that difference. He's going to be running out of laps.
Well, I think, in all honesty, if he pits now, he's going to be coming out sort of towards the back of the cars on that sort of that have made the pit stop already. He's going to be dropping quite far back because he's just hemorrhaging time. These guys on fresh tyres are just so much faster, and eating into that lead. He's got to basically just stay out now and just try and go for as long as possible, maybe. Because
you've got both the Mitch Motorsport cars now actually working very well together. You've got Jason Martin right onto the back of Josh Michelmore. They're trying to absolutely maximise their lap speed at the moment to try and counteract Danson's strategy. So by having one car directly behind the car in front, you're actually taking air off of that car's rear spoiler, and that's what causes the whole draft thing to start, why you see a lot of cars all in that long line, because the lead car is actually gains an advantage also. It's not just the slipstream of the car behind, so they're working as hard as possible together to get that lap speed and to make up the difference. He's sitting as close as he can to the back of Josh.
And the guy just creeping up behind them as well, just trying his best to catch on to that slipstream, which, it's hard to tell just how far away it affects the cars, because, at some tracks, some sort of, especially with some cars and with new aero packages, it can be, with about half a second, where the sort of slipstream starts to catch onto you. Edward Foster there, just behind Michelmore and Martin, he's about a second back behind those two. Well, not even a second, actually. He's a little bit closer than that. He's really trying to catch the draft of those two to get himself up those positions. And they're all catching on Matt Danson now to unlap themselves.
Yeah, so that's an interesting strategy from Danson, because obviously now they've caught all the way back up, and we'll have to see what he's playing at, whether he's going to try and just take fuel, or he doesn't need to take fuel. We'll just have to see what he's playing at. But Edward Foster is actually very, very slowly gaining on those Mitch Motorsport cars, which surprises me because he's on his own, but it is actually working for him. So he has got some speed in that car.
Yes, and getting behind Danson here, he's just having to jump out.
Edward Foster brushed the wall ever so slightly.
Yeah, he just had to really jump out of the way because he was catching so quickly on Danson, who does come into the pit lane finally. honestly don't know. It means Stephen Williams is going to be in the lead of the race, um, with I believe Dave Douglas is actually pitted. So Stephen Williams is going to be the de facto leader of this race as it stands. Um, but yeah, it's going to be interesting how this all plays out.
Danson taking all 4 tyres there. So we'll see where he comes out in relation to these guys.
I think he's going to be coming out relatively far behind, but I think maybe his maybe these guys are not going to make it to the end on fuel. Maybe they're going to have to really, really run it lean to get to the end. Maybe that's what Danson was hoping for. That these guys might have to make a splash and dash towards the end or something like that. Or now he has those fresh tyres, he can really start to make pace and actually catch onto them now. But he has dropped down quite a fair amount. He's down in 10th place, I think, now.
Yeah, we'll have to see what sort of times he starts running. I mean, you've got Josh, Jason and Edward all running in the 29s, so we'll just have to monitor what sort of lap times he can achieve with that fresh rubber. But he's obviously going to run into traffic and everything else. We've seen that in another race where he just left it a little bit too late with the call, and it's compromised his chances. So we'll have to see if he's timed it right this time.
Yes, and Michelmore is actually just trying to fight a little bit for the lead now. The two Mitch Motorsport cars were actually side by side going down the straight, and that only helped Edward Foster. He just got a massive draft on them, and he really started to catch him.
Yeah, I've been impressed with Josh tonight. He's really been taking the fight to him, which has been good to see.
Yes, I think Edward Foster there just gained about a tenth of a second, maybe 2/10 of a second. You know, he just really got a huge amount of time because of those two cars going side by side. It's brought him into the fight. But Josh Michelmore is definitely hungry for this victory. But so is Jason Martin, of course.
Yeah, 100%. He will want to get off the mark, and you know, once again, because Josh is right there, he still won't lead the championship. I mean, Josh has led the championship for the entire season. So yeah, like the points are so close together through the positions. As Edward Foster gets very close to the wall on the exit of 4 and does get a good run on Josh, he'll be wanting to get onto the back of Jason as quickly as possible while he's got the performance in his tyres. The longer it goes on, the worse his tyres are going to get, and the less he has to fight with as he makes a half move on the back straight to try and distract Josh Michelmore. But Josh, as cool as you like, did not buy into that one, as Edward Foster gets another good run and goes for the high line this time on Josh. As Jason Martin will have the best seat in the house there, looking in his mirror, cheering on his teammate to hold up Edward Foster. But we'll have to see what happens here. This is sort of Act 2 of their previous battle earlier in the race.
Yeah, Foster and Michelmore have been having a great battle this race. They've just been sort of stuck to each other. And a good move there by Foster. And, you know, we've got here the championship leader and then two drivers that are very hungry for their first win this season. And one driver, obviously, that's hungry for his first win in this, in the sort of top tier as well, especially in this Cup Series now. With Edward Foster, he really wants to get that win off and under his belt. Joshua Carroll-Walden's still carrying on quite well. He's not too close to these guys. He's currently battling with Riley Curtis and Danny G just down a little bit towards the back, with Matt Danson behind him. And, you know, the real big sort of, I don't know, you've just got to go, was it the right call for Matt Danson? Is he's lost a good he lost about a good 15 seconds, I think it was 15, 16 seconds. He's gaining some time now, but is the time he's going to gain now enough to get him up for fight for the front.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. It's not looking like it at this point, but he is going very quickly. But only a few tenths faster than. I mean, he just made 7. How much quicker is he going? Only a few tenths quicker than top 2. So yeah, he might be praying for a caution. He may have left it too long as we suspected, but we'll have to wait and see, like you discussed with fuel. So we'll see what happens.
But surely, if there's a caution now, everybody's going to probably jump to the pits anyway to grab some fresh rubber anyway. You know, it's sort of. I don't know how helpful it will be for him. You know, it's going to obviously close all the cars up and make it a little bit easier. But if we go green for the rest of this race, it's going to really be a sort of bit of a poor decision. He's still sort of doing quite well though. He's clawed his way up to 5th place. 4th place now, actually. He's just got past Riley Curtis. So obviously those fresh tyres are helping him a lot. Maybe tyre freshness is something that we underestimated a bit tonight, and we're putting too much faith in the aero of the cars. Maybe it's the tyre freshness that is really helping the speeds tonight.
Yeah, I definitely was surprised when Illusion pitted and saw how easily they passed the top cars. So there is actually a lot of pace to be made in a fresh tyre, which, yeah, I didn't realise it would be that great here.
No, the Illusion cars have actually been sort of setting some very good times still, actually. Just sort of glancing down the field, the best lap currently is held by Chris Purnell at 28.9, which is a really good lap and sort of faster than any of the top 3 as well by a bit of a margin. But the Illusion cars are still setting some relatively okay pace. Stephen Williams, who pitted just a couple of laps after Danson, is actually starting to gain as well. He's actually putting in some very good lap times and catching on everybody and basically passing them as well. So it is surprising how much tyre life and tyre wear is actually affecting the speeds of these cars on this super speedway tonight.
So yeah, Matt Danson is actually, his previous lap was a 29.7, while Jason Martin is doing a 30.3. So he is actually making half a second to 6 tenths per lap at the moment. But he's 6.8 seconds behind with 14 laps to go. So he needs to continue this sort of speed and then catch and pass those cars. But the longer it goes on, the less of an advantage his tyres are going to give him. So we'll just have to wait and see if he can keep the momentum going and see how close he can get. But it's still, I still don't think he's going to have quite enough laps to do it. I mean, it's only 13 laps to go, but we'll wait and see.
Yes, I don't think he'll have it in sort of chance to really do it. But obviously, you know, the other thing as well, it's catching is one thing, but passing is another. And once you do get up behind one of these cars and actually start battling them, you're going to start losing your tyres a bit. You're going to start scrubbing off the tyres and making it a little bit harder to sort of keep going at the pace you're going, because you start causing a little bit more wear to the tyres, obviously. Jason Martin has pulled out a very good lead at the moment as well, because he's currently about 1.5 seconds ahead of Edward Foster here in 2nd place. So Jason Martin has just pulled a commanding lead there, and is doing a really good job at the moment, just keeping speed in that car.
Yeah, so it won't be long. We might be seeing Danson on at the back of Josh Michelmore, but if he is going to be fighting on behalf of Mitch Motorsports here, he will not be wanting to let him pass for his own championship and, of course, for his teammate Jason Martin. And then knowing Edward as I do, I'll be very surprised if he can get past Edward, as he'll be violently defending that position. So with 10 laps to go with the time he's got, it's looking very unlikely he's going to be able to do anything about this one.
Yes, well, you know, anywhere in the field trying to pass Edward Foster is never a pleasant task, and we can both attest to that. So, yeah, he's going to really put up a good battle to try and defend that 2nd place, which is a again, a really good position for him. And I think he's going to be, obviously, he'd prefer to be one place higher, but it's still a very good position. And similar to last season, he is just very consistent. He's Mr. Consistent and just able to keep in that sort of group and keep the car up there and get some good sort of point hauls.
Yeah, it's been a solid result for him, but unfortunately, Jason Martin, who's ahead of him in the championship, is getting more points. So it's that gap that just keeps on increasing and increasing, and you start to have to rely on poor results of your rivals to really make that gap up. So he won't want it to keep happening. He wants to start, getting some wins of his own on the board and putting the proper pressure on these guys.
And that's it. And we see here just Foster's just got the back marker of Darren Kenzie, I think it is, just beside him, and he's just going to get past him, hopefully nice and easily. And yeah, he's just going to, it's one of the problems though is, one of the biggest issues with Jason Martin is, of course, when you're relying on your the car in front of you, or the car in front of you in the points to make mistakes and have bad results, things like that. Unfortunately, with Jason Martin, it's not usually something that happens. He tends to generally
other than his pit stops.
Yes, that's it. Other than pit stops, he tends to just generally keep it there and not really make much mistakes. But even with those pit stop mishaps, he's just got such a pace on the track. He's able to sort of counteract it almost, and it's almost a good thing that he has those pit stop issues, because if he didn't, then he would possibly just make it too easy for him to win some races. But Matt Danson is definitely closing up. He is within about
Edward Foster has lost control.
Oh no!
He's spun onto the inside of the track. He's going to lose his position. He's only going to drop to fourth, but he'll be spewing about that. Yeah, Danson is gaining on Josh. Josh was gaining on Edward Foster as well. I think Edward was pushing extremely hard to try and catch Jason Martin early on in the stint, and his tyres are a lot more worse for wear than Josh Michelmore's. So shame for Edward Foster there, but he's still in a very good position, and that's cost him a minimal amount of points. But I think his tyres are well and truly at the end of their life.
Yeah, a real big shame there. Just going through onto the start finish. Oh, and actually he tagged the wall. Big hit on the front, on the wall, just in the driver section. And lucky he didn't actually cause more damage to the car and lose more places. He's going to have a big bit of aero damage to the front right of that car though, and it's not going to be driving as well as it was before by the looks of things. So hopefully he'll be able to keep fourth in the bag. Sorry, fifth, fourth.
Yeah, so Jason Martin then, it's looking extremely likely he's going to get off the mark, and Josh Michelmore, the other Mitch Motorsports car, is now defending from Matt Danson. So I still think Josh will come out leading the championship, but it's going to be very close at the top after this.
It is indeed, and we're going to hopefully see a good battle here. And of course, Matt Danson having to drive this hard on those tyres is going to have slightly cooked them a little bit. And what Matt
still got pace, he's making a move.
He is, and I think what Josh Michelmore is going to be hoping here is that Matt Danson will have sort of slightly overcooked those tyres, because otherwise Matt Danson's just going to scythe right past him.
Yeah, it looks like he's got much younger tyres than Josh. I think Josh hasn't got much of a chance, and he did make that pretty easy, it has to be said. So Danson, he's trying to fight back, but Danson chops his nose off, which he probably didn't need to do, as he's going to carry more corner speed here over Josh. Josh is making a fight of it, and we're coming up to the last lap now, and this is the point where all bets are off. It's just going for it. They've got nothing left to lose now, so we'll see if Josh can fight this and maintain second place. He is holding on well considering the difference in tyres, but Danson is going to make this really hard. He's trying to squeeze him as high up as he can to compromise his entry. Jason Martin's going to take this one out, but we'll come to the line to see who gets second. And it's just barely Matt Danson. So great drive from him from the back. So yeah, final results there. You've got Jason Martin as the winner. So getting his first win of the season, he'll be extremely happy with that from Matt Danson, who came from the back, used the strategy to almost full effect. I think, Carl, we made the right call that he should have come in a little bit earlier from Josh Michelmore, who should retain the championship lead, and Edward Foster with the slight error, still coming home in fourth from his teammate Riley Curtis in fifth. Stephen Williams will come home in sixth from Danny G, the other Mitch Motorsports car, in seventh. Joshua Carroll Walden in eighth. Chris Purnell in ninth. Michael Scurlock in 10th. Dave Douglas, unfortunately, was only able to come home in 11th after showing good car speed. Mirko Dautanac, Darren McKenzie, and then some of the guys involved in the accidents, Matthew Kloop, Ryan Jones, who disappointingly showing pace early, ended up further down the order, Kai Sloggett, Norman Clark, and Roger Clark.
Yes, and just with the finish there with Danson and Michelmore, the gap was actually 0.03 of a second, so nothing in it there. It was just the closest you could really, well, very close indeed there between those two. But Matt Danson just managed to really sort of pull it out of the bag a little bit and get that finish. Very well deserved. He did fight his way up, but as you say, if he had pitted a couple of laps early, it would have just really helped him get that bit closer to Jason Martin, and possibly helped him with the sort of the championship area of this season. And one of the things we were saying before, James, of he's got to stop thinking of these races as just single events. Maybe start thinking about the actual championship as a whole.
Well, yeah, that's right. I mean, he's slowly making progress in the championship now, so it's all about just getting to that chase and then seeing where we can go from there. And I think he's well and truly going to do that. So, yeah, it's just getting into that top 8 is the goal at this point.
Yes, you got to aim to get into the chase now, and that's what these drivers are trying to do. And some really good drives out there tonight, and some amazing saves as well. I'm sure we can all agree on the saves out there. I think it's a bit hard to call between was it Purnell, I
Purnell's
think.
was easily the best, mate.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, for me, that was awesome.
Purnell's was incredible, and Danny G as well, just having a very good save. And I think the drivers got lucky as well, just with the infield section of this track, because a lot of drivers just clipped the outside wall and went across that infield, and just some of the tracks out there can be a bit worse than others for the infield section, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, turn 4 in particular, like not only does the wall sort of come towards you and it catches you out because the corner tightens on the exit, but it sort of drops away there quite severely, which can give you oversteer, especially once your car starts to hurt the rear tyres more and more. So it is a very difficult part of the track.
It is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab Jason Martin in for a chat. I'll let you lead off with this one, James.
Hi, Jason. Congratulations on the victory.
Thanks, mate. About time I finally won an ANZCAR Cup race again.
Yeah, we were talking about it, that you've been looking to get the monkey off your back. I mean, as far as the championship's concerned, I mean, it's been very close between you and Josh, who obviously won Daytona, but you've always been battling with somebody different each race, which is, to your credit, you've been consistently there, and it's to your benefit also that those people you're racing against are different rivals, and therefore, you're consistently the one taking the majority of the points. So No, it's been going well, and yeah, it's good that you were able to finally get the win tonight. How did you feel the tyre wear was? Because we were quite surprised at how much they were wearing off towards the end of the stint.
Yeah, if you raced hard, you could really wear them out, but if you're able to stay single file, you could really save a lot. So those that didn't race hard were able to save lots.
Was it a tactic of Mitch Motorsport to be running side by side for a lot of the early stint? I noticed you and Josh were doing that quite a lot, and not going single file. Was that because you were actually receiving quite a bit of pressure from your own teammates, or was that something that you guys were working together on?
No, that's just us having a bit of fun and racing hard. Don't want to be boring and just stay single file all night.
Yeah, well, that's good to see. I've been wondering whether, as the championship goes on, there'll actually become a bit of friction between you and Josh, as both of you at some stage are going to want to make the call and be that lead driver.
Yeah, later in the run, I was happy to let him stay in front of me, but we were going too slow, so I think it was around lap 120 or 130 or so. I decided I have to pass him.
Oh, that was good, mate. You've got to be selfish in these things, as you know. So yeah, congratulations on the win, and we'll see if you can keep it going.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, Jason. And anyone you'd like to give a shout out to tonight?
Got to thank the guys at Mitch Motorsports, BK Designs, ANZCAR for putting on the great series, and of course Performance E-Streaming for the broadcast.
Thank you very much, Jason. And yeah, I said I'd be probably seeing you again in the box sometime soon and in the winner's seat. So congratulations on tonight, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, mate.
Okay, Jason Martin there, our winner. So we'll just have a little bit of a look down. And what we might do is actually we'll grab Edward Foster in for a bit of a chat, I think, because he was thereabouts all evening and had a really good car, but unfortunately tyre wear looked to be the issue at the end. Again, James, I'll let you lead off with the questions.
Hi, Edward. I'm guessing after your error sort of right at the end of the race there, you're relieved to come home in fourth. It looked like you had quite a bit of oversteer on those tyres after chasing Jason down as hard as you could.
No, it wasn't tyres, mate. It was a lack of concentration of watching my mirrors too hard, which caused that. So I actually had push, if anything.
Yeah, okay. We were sort of talking about the exit of turn 4 there, like how the wall sort of, it can catch you out sometimes, and also the road drops away a bit there and possibly creating oversteer. But yeah, if you had a bit of understeer there, that was a bit unusual. But how did you find your level of competitiveness tonight? Because in recent rounds, Bloke's Advice in particular haven't been able to sort of take the fight to Mitch Motorsport. So you must have been quite pleased being a lot closer to those guys this evening.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased until about 5 laps to go. I mean, with the level of power that we've got running the new package, the oversteer out of turn 4 really isn't a thing anymore. And with the increased aero and so on, it's really a complete non-issue. So just basically putting my hand up for that one. Knew that Danton was on fresher tyres than us and was catching, and I could see him in the mirrors, and I knew Michelmore had closed in a little bit. When I sort of lapped Mackenzie, and I knew that he had better tyre life than me anyway. So I was keeping an eye on them, and that's basically what caused me to go into the wall. Just lost concentration, was fairly tired at the end. But in terms of the overall competitiveness, yeah, I mean, it was good. It was what we expected. This style of track with this particular package just seems to play into my driving style for whatever reason. And I know Riley had a solid night as well. So despite getting involved in a couple of bits and pieces, as did Dave, which unfortunately dropped him down. But in terms of the way the calendar was in those races, Martinsville, Bristol and Dover, which went before, we always knew they were going to be tricky and that we were just going to have to make the best of it until we came back to tracks where we were expected to be more competitive. probably didn't expect Dover to be necessarily as bad as it was. But yeah, anyway, came here with fairly high hopes, and I'm disappointed with fourth, to be honest, because we should have been second.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. I mean, luckily enough, there isn't a big gap between points, between positions, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I was talking during the broadcast that at some stage you're obviously going to be wanting to get your own sort of wins on the board and start taking your own spot in the championship. I mean, it's all and good to be going for these spots, but I mean, you want to get your own wins on the board and get your own thing going. So yeah, it's disappointing, but you've obviously got these 1.5 mile tracks coming up that you can maintain that sort of form.
Yeah, that's the idea. Anyway, like I say, this particular package really does just sort of suit me. I don't know why, but it just does. And for some reason, I never seem to get qualifying right, but that never seems to matter too much. You know, we managed to work our way up the front pretty quickly after that. But yeah, anyway, it's all about putting a mistake-free race together. And you can have all the pace in the world, but if you make mistakes, you know, I've come third, fourth, second, fifth. I've done that now. I'm here to win races, and you know, possibly towards the end of the race with the pace that Jason had, that was probably a little way out of reach tonight. Although I think if I'd done a couple of things differently earlier on, that could have been a very different story. But not to worry. But yeah, if we can't put these mistake-free races together and actually make the most of the pace we've got, then we're never going to win a race. So got to fix it, and hopefully come back in a fortnight and do better.
Yeah, I did find there were points of the races there where it was sort of you being the sole Blokes Advice racing car versus all three Mitch Motorsports and a couple of Illusions. I mean, the only other car that really featured was Joshua Carroll Walden. It's obviously something that Dave and Riley are going to be looking to assist you with in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't either of theirs fault, really. I mean, I know both of those guys got involved in incidents, and from what I've heard, I guess amongst the chat amongst the drivers, they weren't necessarily to blame for either one. So, yes, it would have been nice to have some team support up there. No, I don't think that made the difference. I think I would have been fourth regardless, and perhaps if Riley or David had been up there, one of them would have been ahead of me and I would have been fifth. So, but for a team performance, they just need some luck to change, that's all. And they'll be right in the mix too.
All right, mate. Is there any shout-outs that you've got for anybody this evening, or that's about it?
Yeah, always. Obviously, Blokes Advice for title sponsoring the team. EMR Industries for the great gear that they supply us. Absolutely top quality. Toyo Tyres, K&N, E53, and Riley Curtis Designs, of course, for owning the team and putting me in the team. So, yeah, it's very much a team effort over there with all those guys behind us. So, very important that they get the recognition they deserve when we have a good result.
Cool, mate. Carl, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, actually, just one last thing before you go, Edward. Just with qualifying, you do notice that you tend to go out quite early in a session. Do you feel there is much difference with the track towards the end of a session compared to the beginning of the session?
Not necessarily. I mean, I went out early this time because it was cloudy. As soon as the session started, it was cloudy. I thought, right, great, cool track. I'll get out there now. And that's really the only reason for it. I think I think I wasn't the only one, but didn't put my lap together necessarily. And I don't really know what the conditions turned into later on. After I put my lap down, I actually sort of left my PC for a while and went off for a couple of minutes. So I didn't actually see what it was like at the end. I just came back and was sort of bottom midfield, which I wasn't too happy with. But I don't know what it is. I seem to qualify really badly on these tracks and race really well. So, yeah, I'd certainly rather that than the other way around.
Yes, well, that's it. You know, qualifying is one thing, but the race is another. But hopefully we'll see you up a little bit further in qualifying in the next few races and battling for that win that you hopefully will be getting this season.
Yeah, I suppose, you know, I actually won the first race of the season, which was the qualifying race for Daytona. If you want to count that, I'm counting that at the moment because it's all I've got to cling on to. But hopefully we'll be able to add to that as the season moves forward. We've got a few tracks coming up that should favour us. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck in with those, the Mitch guys and the Illusion guys and all those other fellas up the front.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Edward, and we'll see you next round.
Thank you.
Edward Foster there, the fourth place man, unfortunately, due to that incident to the end. A bit of an unfortunate one there for Edward, and, as always, very harsh on himself, because it's so easy just to lose to lapse of judgment just for that split millisecond. It's one of those things that it's so easy to do, and especially on worn tyres, things like that, it becomes very hard to save.
Yeah, well, they're all extremely competitive and all want to get the result. So, like he said, he's been coming in the top positions for a long time, but all the drivers are here to win and they want to start winning. I mean, he's been in ANZCAR from the beginning, and he wants to start winning races and winning championships. So, yeah, he's as keen as all of them are to be winning all the time. So he's going to stay that hard on himself till he gets the result.
And that's it, one of the biggest problems though is everybody in this series is very similar in that thought, and they are all improving as well. But it's that thing of just keeping up the front, and you just keep that momentum going. So it'll be interesting to see how we go next time out.
Is there anyone else available to come in for an interview?
Yeah, actually, we might just grab in Josh Michelmore quickly for one interview before we head off for the evening. Josh Michelmore, how are you here for Performance E Streaming? How are you going?
How are you, mate? Yeah, not too bad.
A bit of a long race for you tonight, and sort of looked like a bit of a tricky one for you as well.
Yeah, at the end there, I'm not sure. I don't know. I think I got an issue with the pedals or something. Just didn't have the speed there in that last run. I don't know what was going on. I didn't do anything different out of normal. So whether it's something sim wise or something, I'm not really sure. But a little bit disappointing. But yeah, no, it was still a good fun race.
Yes, well, it was a very close third place, though. It was a really close finish there between you and Matt Danson. That last lap, you had some excellent driving and did some pretty much some excellent driving to sort of keep the line blocked. But with those fresher tyres, obviously, he had that bit of advantage. How much were tyres really the biggest sort of factor tonight?
It wasn't too bad. If you run the bottom most of the run, usually your tires you can save a bit more wear on the tires. It's not too bad, but if you run the top, you wear out a little bit more. But it wasn't really much of a factor in my opinion. But yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, the Mitch Motorsport team look to be having a relatively good season. Unfortunately, poor Danny G got unfortunately caught up in a bit of an accident. Um, with the sort of cars up there in the sort of front positions, did you find that gave you a bit more advantage?
With the way this car is at the moment, with these bigger tracks, definitely being in a team and stuff, and being in that draft and helping each other out, sort of definitely help for sure. But yeah, no, Daniel and Jace are both doing good. Myself and Jace obviously won two in the championship, and I think Daniel was around fourth. So as a team now, we're looking pretty good. Pretty happy as a team.
Yeah, I'll pass. Just James, anything you'd like to ask now?
Yeah, mate. Just wanted to commend you on your impeccable incident rating for the season, sitting at 0. Did you add to it this evening?
No, got 0 incidents. I made sure I checked that, even though me and Danson had a bit of a bingo on the line, still got no incidents, so it's pretty good. Pretty happy about that.
Pretty good is understating it. It's actually perfect, mate. So, yeah, you've got to be pretty pleased with that. I was talking to Jason before about the potential of you guys, like you're obviously very close in the championship and both of you want to win. Do you see there being a chance of, like, obviously Jason is only a new member to your team, any potential friction coming later in the season? Like, obviously you're here to win as well as he is. Is there something like you come down near the end of the season, you're obviously going to be going for yourself?
Yeah, we're still, fighting it out on track sort of thing. I think tonight I had some sort of other issue. I don't know what was going on there. I just had nothing at the end then. He was gone. He shouldn't have gone that much far in ahead. But yeah, on the track, yeah, we'll be racing each other just like we're, opposition or whatever. So when we can, but definitely, yeah, that last race will be on if we both make it into the chase. That is so.
Yeah, I noticed you were actually pressuring him really hard this race, which was really good to see. So yeah, I mean, I think you're just going to be leading the championship by a small margin from him now. So yeah, it should be interesting to see how that rivalry develops throughout the season. In regards to your pedals, I recently had an issue myself where even at flat out, it wasn't registering as 100% throttle. It would just flicker on and off, and also my brakes would intermittently come on like 5%, and so I had to take them all apart and spray like electrical spray in there to clean them all out, and you might be having a similar issue.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'll definitely pull them apart over the weekend or something and check out and give them a spray out and a bit of a check over and maintenance on them and hopefully that's all it was. But if it's that, but we'll see.
No worries, mate. You got a shout out for anyone this evening?
Yeah, you guys at ANZCAR and Performance E Streaming taking out your time to stream the race for us, and Bob King, BK Designs for sponsorship, and that's about it, really.
No worries, mate. Well done on the result, and let's see how much longer. I don't want to jinx it, but I want to see how much longer you can keep this zero incident rating going, which to me is just a ridiculous statistic.
No, we'll try and keep it going like that. It's been like 8 rounds now and over 1,000 laps, so no, we'll keep it going. Hopefully, we'll see how it goes.
No worries, mate. Have a good one.
No worries. Cheers, fellas.
Okay. Josh Michelmore there. So we have just had the points updated for the systems. They've just come up with the new results, and Jason Martin is our new championship leader. He's just gone up to the points position on sort of finishing position aggregate. He's actually on the exact same points as Josh Michelmore.
Matt Danson has just come into the booth as well, mate.
Yeah, we'll just grab Matt Danson in for a quick chat. But yes, just before we do, Michael Scurlock, Danny G, Edward Foster, Dave Douglas, and Stephen Williams are all not moving from sort of 3rd to 7th place. So we'll just grab Matt Danson in, who's now in 10th position in the championship. Matt Danson, Carl Withy here, Performance E-Streaming. How are you going?
Yeah, not too bad. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. So, good finish there at the end for you.
Yeah, I suppose I should have won, but I made a bit of a foolish strategy call, trying to run it long and then come home strong at the finish. But it is what it is.
It's one of those.
If I could just jump in there, Carl. I've noticed, Matt. How you going, mate? There's been a few races now where I think your call is correct, but it seems you're making it quite late and not giving yourself enough laps to actually get the job done. Would you agree with that?
Sometimes. I mean, I made the one with the run along on the fuel. I think that was Iowa. Just a few different things, just to mix it up and just try something different, I suppose. Rather than just doing the same as everyone. With this one, it was probably the opposite. If I had been able to go later, it was better because like the times were leveling out at sort of a mid-30s. So, when everyone else had pit, I just did that same time over and over and over again until I eventually pit. So I knew that I had to just try and save it when I had the freshies, so that I didn't get to that mid-30 too quickly. But yeah, as you saw, it sort of got to about, I think, 6 to go, and I sort of was doing about the same time as Jason at that point in time. And we would have, with the way these cars are, they're just so, planted and in the track that it just gets to a point where the tyres don't drop off anymore. So yeah, I mean, probably this in hindsight, the smart thing to do would have been to pit at the same time as everyone and just use my tyre saving. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was sort of like you got to the point where you were losing a second a lap, and the laps were sort of running out and giving yourself less and less time. So I was waiting and waiting for you to pit, and you obviously had the speed there. It just seemed like you ran out of laps, and that was something that's happened previously. But yeah, if you think you should have pitted later, it's a very tough decision to make. Obviously, as for competitiveness versus laps left. So it was obviously a tough call at that point in the race.
Yeah, I sort of got to like you. I mean, you're spot on. But I guess what I'm sort of getting at is that like you've either got to pit super late after everyone, or at the same time you can't sort of be, and I think you've even said this in a previous race, like you can't be in that halfway between stage, because then it's just gonna not go well. So.
Exactly. And the other question I had for you, was it a tactic of yours to not qualify, or you arrived late? I mean, we were criticising it at the beginning of the broadcast, but I mean, you can't fault your end result other than winning it. Is it a strategy of yours to just start from the back and work your way from there?
Nah. So I didn't do any practice or anything, just because I had the flu actually. So I wasn't up for doing that, and then just rocked up right before qual, and then just got that wrong. Really, I was just kind of farting around, getting cold and flu tablets and everything ready, and then went out for qualifying, finished my lap. As like I was coming to the line, and then it just flicked into race mode. So I obviously just timed it just about probably 3 to 4 seconds too late, and didn't get a lap in. So that was just poor management.
Yeah, right. Fair enough. All good then. I've well and truly jumped in and cut you off, Carl. So here's another guy with who's quite sick. Go for it, Carl.
Yes, a fellow sufferer of a throat infection for myself. Yeah, not the best thing, but overall a great result there for yourself at the end. So yeah, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to tonight, Matt?
Ah, good grief! You got to do
Yeah,
something
sounds
about that.
sounds like
That
you're working
shot.
hard there, Carl. I hope they're paying you lots. Shout outs. Yeah, let's give a shout out to some people. This time I'll remember. So we'll shout out to Stiltman Crowder Racing, of course. Ashton Braden. Shout out to Vegan Food Melbourne. Check them out on Instagram for all your vegan food ideas and whatnot. Shout out to ANZCAR for putting on the league. Shout out to everyone in the field. Actually, it was pretty good quality, I suppose, for the driving. There was one or two sort of incidents that probably didn't need to happen, but it was good overall. So shout out to everyone there, and you guys for putting on the the commentary and the stream and everything. It's always good to be able to watch it back, and you do a pretty professional job. So thanks for doing that, taking your time to do it.
No worries, mate. I think I'll carry on talking as Carl, I don't think can. So yeah, no, cheers for that, mate, and best of luck in the next race.
No worries, boys. Thanks. Take care.
So that pretty much wraps up this evening's race. I mean, now it's extremely close at the top of the championship, as Carl was highlighting earlier. So for everyone here at Performance E Streaming, we'll see you at the next round of the ANZCAR Cup.